Good evening, everybody. Tonight I'm going to talk a little bit about some emergency preparedness things and show you a couple of items that you might be able to use to prepare yourself to survive. I'm going to talk about surviving away from home in case you have to live in your car for a little while or you can't get home. Because some of the things that happen during an earthquake is roads get blocked and buildings fall over, trees fall over, and sometimes, or there's a riot or streets are blocked and you may not be able to get home for a while. I want to show you a few things you can do to prepare your vehicle so that you can survive for up to 3 or 4 days away from home. And I want to show you something you can pull up online. Okay. Excuse me a second here. Now I pulled up a couple of checklists from a website, bereadyutah.gov, and I would suggest everybody take a look at that website because there are several kits that they have everything already figured out for you. They have collective experiences that you can draw on, and I've got I printed off a couple of kits here that I'm going to show you tonight. One of them is the vehicle emergency kit, and I'm not going to go down through the list and call off everything on the list because you can pull it up yourself off of that website. And most of these things I've talked about before in church, and I want to show you this little kit I made myself. Sister Gadetto asked me a while back what would be the basic things to put together so that she could give her kids, and I thought about it, and really your most basic needs are food and water and some protection for your body, whether it be some kind of shelter or clothes. So what I did was my wife gave me this nice Homer box from Home Depot, and I thought that would be perfect to make a basic survival kit for the vehicle, and it's easily stowable, and you can fit just about every one of your basic. I'll show you this. I've taken a Sharpie and listed everything that I've got in here. I use a Sharpie because, well, one of my nicknames is Bubba, so Sharpies and rednecks kind of go together. So let me, first off, I'm going to read off what I've got in here, and then I'll show it to you. I've got toilet paper, I have a whistle, I have a couple of glow sticks for light, and some hand warmers, some toe warmers. I've got a solar kit in here. That's optional because they're a little bit expensive, and you can get by with batteries mostly. And I've got ration bars in here, a trauma kit. I have a GPS, but you can get by with a compass and maps. I have flashlight in here, spare batteries. I've got cotton balls in here for a couple of reasons, and a little jar of petroleum jelly in there. One of the reasons I keep those stocked in my truck is you can use those cotton balls and soak them with petroleum jelly, and they make excellent fire starters. Secondly, you can use those cotton balls and the petroleum jelly for first aid measures. I've got a 100-hour candle in here. I've got an emergency blanket and a water filter straw. So I can open this up and show you what I've got. This is a straw I'm talking about. This will purify 99.9% of all bacteria in water. And so when you run short of water, most water sources you run into, you'll be able to use this and be okay. Now, some people, another straw maker is Life Straw. This is what this is designed after. This was made by Alexapure. I've got 3 or 4 of these Bic lighters for starting fires. I've got a flashlight in here with I want to make sure my batteries were good. I've got spare batteries in here. I've got a whistle, and this whistle also, I got this at Walmart, pretty cheap, $4 I think. And besides the whistle, it has a compass on it, and inside here is a magnifying glass that you can, kind of hard to pop it out, but there's a magnifying glass in here. That magnifying glass is good for a couple of things. If you're having trouble reading something, seeing something very clearly, that magnifying glass is great. Also, when I was a kid in grade school, we used magnifying glasses out on the playground, and we would get a bunch of dry grass, and you'd get arrested for this in school probably now, but we would take that magnifying glass, and you could actually start a fire with that magnifying glass reflecting or magnifying the light onto dry grass. So that's another tool you can use for survival. It also has a thermometer on here and a barometer. Thermometer. This is a GPS unit, and I always keep spare batteries for it. I'm pretty sure everybody knows how to use a GPS unit. If not, I'll be glad to teach you. I've got a little bit of nylon rope in here. The reason I have that rope in there mainly is because I also keep a tarp in my truck, and if you need to make a tent, you can use this rope and that tarp and hang it off of whatever items you can find. Also in here, I have a striker for a lighter here. It's the same concept as flint and steel, and it puts out very good sparks. It's fail-safe, so if you happen to lose your lighter or run out of fluid in it, this will never fail you. I'm not going to demonstrate it here in church because it does put out a pretty good amount of spark, but anytime anybody wants me to help you learn how to build fires, get a hold of me because I love doing it. So. Bottom layer here, I've got disposable gloves, a couple of sets in here. I have a Ziploc bag here for anything I happen to open up and I want to keep it waterproof or keep it fresh. Like, for instance, these food bars, if I open those up, you're going to want to keep them clean because you're not going to eat it all at once. And inside another Ziploc bag, I've got a writing pad, toilet paper, a pen, and a pencil. And the important reason I've got that pencil in there is I've learned from experience that when it's really cold outside, a pen won't work sometimes. So that pencil will always work. I have another Life Straw. This is the one I was talking about. I usually keep 2 of most things in here because Kathy's usually with me in the truck. And this is a solar kit that has a battery pack in here. You can use it, fold out the solar panel and charge those batteries and use the battery pack to charge your phone or anything else that will hook up to a USB device. These are a little bit expensive, so that's why I say extra batteries will eliminate the need for this, as long as you have some way to charge your phone. These are the glow sticks I was talking about. You just crack them open and they glow for several hours. They're not real bright, but they give you enough nice green light to help you see and make you feel more comfortable. I've got an emergency blanket in here, a heavy duty one. And if you go to Walmart, this is what they look like in the box. So I suggest you have at least one of these in your vehicle, because the way they work is they reflect your body heat back on you, and they work very well. And one side of them is an orange colored, so makes you more visible if you want to be. If you want to be rescued, you just turn that around so the orange is facing out, and it's much easier to see. There's my bag of cotton balls with the petroleum jelly in here. And like I said, anytime you want me to demonstrate to you how to start a fire with those, let me know. These are emergency ration bars. This particular brand is Daytrex. I have tasted these, and they actually taste very good, and they will last for 5 years. And I think they cost about $9. There's 3,600 calories in this pack, and they're like 200 calorie bars, so you eat those periodically and keep your energy up. And these will last you, they'll keep you going for at least 3 days. They do have manufacturing date and expiration date. They're good for 5 years, so you want to make sure to change those out periodically. This is a 100-hour candle. You can use your candle for light or heat. It will help to heat up the inside of your vehicle. Anytime you use an external source of heat, I would recommend at least keeping your window cracked a little bit to keep some fresh air in your vehicle, so carbon monoxide won't be a problem. I've got a box of fire starters here that makes starting a fire much easier also. I've got a couple of packs each of toe warmers and hand warmers. You know, if your feet get cold, the rest of your body is going to follow really quickly. So it's very important to keep your feet warm. And the toe warmers and hand warmers, you can also use those to warm up your body. Best place to put them is right above your kidneys, because that's where all your blood flows, and so that will help heat up the rest of your body. I know when I was in winter survival training a few years ago, we were up in the high Uintas in the deep snow all day, and one of the guys that was in training there, his feet were getting very cold, and so I gave him a couple of those toe warmers, and he told me it was the difference between night and day, and so he was able to keep on going with the training, whereas he was about to drop out before. So I've got a trauma pack here. What it is Quick Clot. It's designed to stop bleeding. Just a basic little bit of first aid. Your first attempts to stop bleeding should be pressure and elevation. If you have an arm or a leg or something like the appendage on your body or somebody else's body that's bleeding profusely, first thing you want to do is elevate that above the heart and put some direct pressure on it, and usually that will stop it. But if you feel the need where you can't stop it with direct pressure, this Quick Clot will usually enable you to get that bleeding stopped. Your last resort is to use a tourniquet, because a tourniquet will save a person's life if it's in a place where you can put a tourniquet. You don't want to put it around the neck unless you're really mad at somebody. But the thing about tourniquets is usually if you put it on tight enough to stop that bleeding and save their life, chances are they're going to lose that the part of their arm or their leg that's below that tourniquet, unless you get them to professional help immediately, because there's ways to take that tourniquet on and off to keep circulation up enough to where you won't lose an arm or a leg. But unless you're a trained professional, you never want to do that. Once you put a tourniquet on, you leave it on. So that's your absolute last resort. Quick Clot. I suggest everybody have Quick Clot in their car. Give me a second, I'll move this all out of the way. see how easy that it is to get things in and out of that storage box. Other things you want to keep in your vehicle is flashlights, of course. I've got a couple of flashlights here. Okay, I misplaced one of them, but I'll show you one of the special purpose flashlights I have. I would suggest having a flashlight that is rechargeable. This particular one has has a solar panel on it, so you can charge it by the sun if you have no other way to charge it and your battery's running low. And it also has a couple other functions on it. Has a detachable compass on it, and also it comes with a cable that you can hook up here and then connect any USB power source and charge it that way, and that's much quicker to recharge it. But also has a USB port here, so you can charge your phone if it's dead. But some of the other functions of this particular flashlight, it has a glass breaker here. It's very sharp and very hard, and has a seat belt cutter right here. The importance of that glass breaker cannot be overlooked. One time when I was stationed in Texas, it was a very hot day in the summertime. It was over 100 degrees, and this was way back before anybody had cell phones, and this lady had accidentally locked her baby in her vehicle, and that baby was frothing at the mouth when I got into the parking lot there, and she was just hysterical, which you can understand. And so she asked me to bust a window out so that I could get her baby out, and while she ran into the store to try to get a phone and call an ambulance. So not having anything but a bat in my truck, and she had a very nice Volvo car, and so I picked the smallest window I could find in the back seat and busted it out with that bat, but it took a little while. Quality windows are hard to break, harder to break than you think. And it would have been nice to have this glass breaker, because these make breaking glass much easier, and they're very good at emergency. If you're trapped inside your vehicle, somebody else is trapped in the vehicle, you've got a fire going on, you need to get out of that vehicle fast. Glass breakers are worth more than you could ever think. Same for the seat belt. If somebody needs to get out of the vehicle really quick and it's jammed shut, you can't get that seat belt off, you just cut it off. And these are designed so you won't wind up cutting somebody's stomach while you're trying to cut that seat belt. So like I said, it comes with another cable that you can hook up to a USB power source and charge it up. And I have another solar-powered flashlight that is very similar to that, but it's cheaper. It only costs $20 at Sportsman's Warehouse. Those make great Christmas gifts. Everybody in my family knows what to get me for Christmas, because I love flashlights of every kind. Another thing that's important that I would recommend having in your vehicle is a portable radio that operates on AM and FM and has the weather band on it. On the weather channels, they will transmit emergency information that you need to know. If there's tornadoes in the area, or floods are likely, earthquakes, they will give you vital information you need to know about your area. It'll give you a weather forecast also. So this particular one also has a solar panel on it, and hand crank on it, which is absolutely vital because if your batteries are dead and you got no sunlight to charge this thing up with, you can hand crank this thing for about 3 minutes and you're going to have it'll operate for quite a while for you. When it comes to food, there are also cheaper things to put into your kit as far as survival food. This is Nature Valley Roasted Nut Crunch bar, and I've used these at my winter survival training, and a couple of these kept me going all day long when I was really worried about if I would be able to pack enough food and survival gear into my backpack. And I was all worried about what's the best thing to pack in there. And one day I just got a box of these, and I figured, well, I'm just going to throw a couple of these in my clothing, my pocket. And it wound up, that was all I needed. It kept me all day long, 2 of these. Also, another thing that I've used in my survival classes was trail mix. You can get that anywhere. My favorite is the Asian trail mix, nice and spicy, and it'll keep you full, keep you going, give you enough energy. And this is emergency food ration bars made by UST, and you get these at Walmart also for $5. They're much harder than the Datrix I had over there, and I actually have not tried these. I haven't tasted them, but there's 2,400 calories in one of these blocks for $5, and they're in 200 calorie squares also. So there's another option for you. A very common option people use and you've heard me refer to them as MREs, or meals ready to eat. These are good for 5 years also, and the shelf life on that was 5 years. So, but I've never opened one up to show you what they actually pack inside these things here. So you get a little heater here. You can put your main dish, your entree in there, and a little bit of water, and fold it up and set it off to the side, and the chemical reaction here will heat up your entree. It won't heat it up as much as we're used to at home, but it'll make it a little bit more palatable for you. So usually inside an MRE, you've got that main entree. You may have something like wheat snack bread. You're going to have peanut butter, barbecue sauce, because this is a rib-shaped barbecue flavor pork patty. There's a kippered beef snack, and I'm not sure what that is. Grape jelly. You get similar things in all of these, and along with it comes, your spoon. You've got a little bit of a moist towelette there, a little bit of tissue in here. You're always going to have a juice mix, and Cool Mints with caffeine. So you get quite a bit inside an MRE. These are a little bit more expensive option and take up a little bit more room. So I've kind of gone away from packing MREs in my little kits like this. So, but if you like MREs, they've gotten a lot better over the years, and hot sauce will fix just about any kind of entree. Will make it tasty for you. Also, inside my truck, I have a little portable shovel here. Okay, pretty quick, easy to operate. When you've practiced a little bit, I stumbled a little there because I hadn't done it in a while. But these are great for several things. If you need to dig a hole to bury your trash or anything else you might want to bury that people won't step on, and the shovel's going to do what you need. And I'll be frank with you. I don't know if everybody's going to agree with what I had to say right now, but I would not hesitate to use this as a personal defense weapon. If somebody was attacking me or my wife, I look forward to the day when Jesus calls me home, but I don't want somebody else taking my life. And I think most of you will agree with me that personal defense is an option that is acceptable. So that's another thing this can be used for. Another thing about shovels, I'll give you an example. I was traveling in New Mexico one time and going down the interstate between Bernalillo and Santa Fe, and a fire started off on the shoulder of the highway there, and it had just started when I got to it, and I figured I can put that fire out instead of it growing into a big fire and blocking the freeway and possibly injuring or killing somebody. So I pulled over the side of the road, and I keep a shovel in the back of my truck and a fire extinguisher, which is another thing I forgot to mention. But I was in a big hurry, so instead of digging out my fire extinguisher, I just grabbed my shovel and ran back down the highway and started beating that fire out. And I'll be honest with you, I should have grabbed my fire extinguisher. The shovel did the trick, but it took me much longer, and I was exhausted by the time I got all those flames out, because traffic was going down the highway 75 miles an hour and just blowing the flames everywhere. And so shovels are very handy to have in your vehicle for various reasons. We also need to be ready to survive a disaster at home. And, you know, I've mentioned 72-hour kits, and that's what you're going to find when you go shopping. But the recommendation now is 96 hours due to all the emergencies that have happened in the past few years. They've realized that 3 days usually isn't enough time for emergency services to restore power and water and everything else that gets knocked out. So they're recommending having enough supplies to last you 4 days instead of 3. So your kit that you keep in your vehicle can also be used at home. An important thing to know is you should have a kit for every person in your family. Everybody's needs would be just a little bit different, so your kits may be a little bit different. These kits at home, I've also got a disaster supply kit with a list of items you need in it off of that same website, bereadyutah.gov. Please write that down and look at that website, because it gives you very good information on things you may not even think about. Clothing is another thing I forgot to mention. You should keep in your vehicle, especially in the wintertime. If your clothes get wet and it's freezing at night, you may not survive. Hypothermia is a very dangerous thing to happen to you, and if you have got wet clothes on and you can't change into dry clothes, you may not be able to stay warm. So Kathy has a bag full of extra clothes that she keeps in her vehicle in the wintertime, and I've always got extra clothes in my truck. So that's one of the things that it's mentioned here in your kit. Multifunction pocket knife is another important thing to have. I've got a knife here that's made by Leatherman, and it has, pliers, has a knife blade in it, a saw blade, several flat blade screwdriver, and a Phillips head screwdriver. It's got a can opener, and this Leatherman's a little bit expensive. I spent money on it because I use them at work all the time. And the one I had before this one I had for about 30 years, and I finally lost it a few months ago, and so I bought a new one. But they make cheaper tools you can buy at Walmart or any sporting goods store. Personal medications is another thing on this list. I'm not going to go through all of them, but everybody has different needs. It's important to have the medications that you're going to need. Mace and pepper spray is another important thing. And on the list here, I've mentioned it before, is at least $200 in small bills. I've told you before that in an emergency, cash is king because you may not be able to use your bank card. ATMs might be down, networks go down. And so always have enough cash to buy your basic needs. So your kit, your items, the best way to do is to store it in a backpack, a wheeled suitcase, or other portable container in an easy access location as near as possible to an exit in your house. And I'll admit right now, I need to build a bug out kit for us because we have everything we need packed away in our camper. But if we, for some reason, didn't have time to hook up my truck to the camper and before we left the house, it would be better to have another bug out kit that we can just throw in the back of the truck. Last March we covered how to prepare for an earthquake, and as I mentioned, some of the effects of earthquakes are extended power outages, fires, blocked or destroyed roads, destroyed or unsafe buildings and dwellings. And we've seen that bad windstorms and blizzards can cause many of the same problems. That bad windstorm we had a few weeks ago, some people's power didn't get returned for a couple of weeks. So this pandemic has shown us that buying normal supplies from the store sometimes can be questionable. And the time to prepare for a catastrophe is before it strikes. I've always, I grew up being taught that if you fail to prepare, then you prepare to fail. And I hope you've taken my advice and have been working on ensuring you and your family have enough food and water to survive for an extended period. If the stores have run out of supplies and you're not able to get what you need at the stores. In our last session, I showed you freeze-dried and dehydrated food products, and those are kind of expensive, so I realized that sometimes we need some cheaper options, and there are cheaper options, and most of you are probably just as familiar with them as I am. Non-perishable, high-protein foods are another good way to ensure you have a proper nutrition to survive. And some of these are canned vegetables, canned chicken breasts, canned fruit. Canned tuna fish and peanut butter are great sources of energy and nutrition and protein. Potatoes and beans, they can be stored for a good while, and they're both great sources of energy. Potatoes is one of the best foods that you can get. The reason they get a bad rap is because usually the way they're prepared is either fried or they're baked and stuffed full of anything from sour cream to butter to chili, and so they really kind of lose that great advantage you get from potatoes, and they get loaded down with things that aren't so good for you, excessive calories and non-saturated fats. And the best thing about potatoes and beans is they're not very expensive, and they last for a good while. Now, a big concern with extended power outages is the food in your refrigerator and it getting spoiled. And one of the advantages we have here in Utah in the wintertime is it usually freezes at night. So one of the things I suggest doing is put water bottles out at night and let them freeze, and then put those in your coolers, and you can keep your food from spoiling by keeping them in coolers. It'll keep them for longer than normal. Of course, you want to eat your most perishable foods first, and but using coolers and ice will allow you to extend the lifespan on your food, and it's free. And you know, sometimes during the day it doesn't even get above 32 degrees here in the wintertime, so there's cheap ways to keep your food from spoiling. And another way to keep your food from spoiling is to use the sun to produce electricity for your freezer or refrigerator. An average size refrigerator will draw between 100 and 250 watts. And during the cycles when the condenser and the fan's not running, it will draw minimal power. I measured the power draw on our refrigerator at home, and with everything running, you know, the condenser and the condenser fan and the door open so the lights turned on, it only drew 203 watts. So I'm going to show you a little solar panel set up here so you can produce your own electricity. The way this works is this solar panel will draw energy from the sun and send it to this battery charge controller, which will charge up your battery, and you can hook up an inverter to the battery. It will take that DC power from your battery and change it into regular AC power and supply your electrical devices. I'm not responsible for what that radio's turned on to. We just grabbed it and plugged it in. So an important component, most important component of your solar system here is that battery. And you want to use a good quality deep cycle battery, so that way you won't ruin it. You can run it down a lot further than a regular car battery. But if you don't have one available and you've got a car battery you can use that as the same thing. Oh, here's that flashlight I was looking for. Another option is, you know, for those of you who work in an office, a lot of times companies, when they use these uninterruptible power sources for their computers, let me just bring it over here real quick. Most of you have probably seen these in your offices, and a lot of times when the batteries go bad in these and they quit working, a lot of companies will just throw them away. And if you see any of these being thrown away, grab them up, because all you have to do is replace a battery inside here, and you've got a good power source. So when you lose commercial power at your house, that battery will provide you some electricity. And you can run your battery chargers for your phones. You can, LED lights don't draw very much electricity, so you can run a string of LED lights off it, and it'll last you a good while. A new battery for that will cost about $40. So if you see any of these being thrown away, just grab them up and put a new battery in them. You know, when you buy solar systems like this, there's differences in the inverters, and most of the cheaper inverters are what are called modified sine wave inverters, and you know, the power you get from your power company is a pure sine wave inverter. And there's no use going into all the theory behind all that, all the technical information, but those modified sine wave inverters that you get with this system here, they'll work just fine for most of the things that you're going to operate. If you're wanting to run a power supply for your computer, maybe you might think about buying a pure sine wave inverter to go along, but keep that modified one because it's cheaper and you can use it for most things. But if you have questions about that, just get a hold of me and I can explain all that to you, but a little bit clearer, but there's no use wasting time on it right now. And I wanted to show you this catalog from Northern Tool and Equipment, and you can go online to northerntool.com, and it's an excellent source for your solar systems, you know, your solar panels and your inverters and batteries. There's an excellent battery in here. And if anybody's interested in putting together their own solar generator and you want a little advice, just get a hold of me. I'm not a great expert on it, but I have some experience with it and I use them quite a bit. There are sources you can buy these that are already manufactured in nice sets that you can carry with you anywhere. You've heard me mention forpatriots.com as a source for freeze-dried food. Well, they've also got solar generators and flashlights and all other kinds of emergency survival equipment. And they make a very nice solar generator, but it's it's pretty expensive. But the thing about it is you can take it anywhere, and but you can build your own. And Goal Zero makes several different models, and so those are sources if you want to just buy one. And like I said, those are very nice and very handy if you got if you have the money to buy one. Getting lost here. That's basically all I wanted to show you tonight. As a recap, you know, we live in troublesome times, and I was never called to preach, so I won't try to convince you of the need to be prepared spiritually for the challenges of the evil we're surrounded by. But until the Lord Jesus comes and calls this church away, we're going to have to deal with every natural disaster and every outbreak of illness and every riot. You know, folks who have no moral anchor, they'll be swayed by every silly lie they're told on TV, social media, on the radio, and we can't avoid being caught up or surrounded by all of this, and we're here for a reason, and we're here to reach the lost and to do God's will, and we can't do that if we can't survive the things that come our way. When all these things happen, these disasters, you know, there's going to be fewer products available in the stores, and the electrical structures across the United States are really being degraded because the power companies have not spent the money to keep up their equipment and upgrade it. They sometimes have been more interested in pocketing their profits instead of upgrading the structure. So you see, and fires, you see in California brownouts because of fires, and some of those were caused by the electrical system. And so it is important for us to be able to live through these things. Building you a solar generator or learning how to live without it, the electricity that you use every day is a must for us. You know, in Psalm 33, verses 18 and 19, it says, "Behold, the eye of the Lord is upon them that fear him, upon them that hope in his mercy, to deliver their soul from death and to keep them alive in famine." And you know, I so trust in God's word, and he is so good to us, and that is such a great promise for us. And Jesus is our ultimate hope. But you know, God used men in biblical times to do great things. God ultimately performed the miracles, but don't forget men like King David and Gideon, that he called to do specific things, and when they obeyed his directions, then he brought the miracles, and he provided the victory when they provided the manpower. You know, and the last time I did one of these sessions, I mentioned that youth in the New Testament who had the 2 fishes and 5 loaves of bread, and Jesus asked his disciples how to feed the multitude, and they were at a loss how to do it, but he knew what he was going to do. He was just testing them, and he said, "Well, what do we have here?" And they said, "There is the boy with 2 small fishes and 5 loaves of barley bread." And so Jesus instructed them to have him bring them, and he took what that little boy had, and he blessed it and fed the 5,000 men plus their families. And you know, to me, that boy was the only one there that had he was the only wise person in that crowd that actually had something to give to Jesus so that he would perform that miracle. And so that's why I know that if we will do our best and give to God what we can, that he'll make up what we can't do. But if you do nothing, what can you expect, really? Wrapping up here, I want to thank you for those of you who watched tonight, and once again I want to restate that if you have any questions or would like help with anything concerning disaster preparation, or how to any questions about what I've shown here tonight, please contact me or your care group leader and have him contact me. And questions, I definitely questions are helpful. That way I know how I can help. Before we close, I want us to pray. So, Lord Jesus, thank you for your everlasting love and care for us, because you are our refuge and our fortress, and we won't fear what's in the world. Please help us prepare to be able to serve you and to do your will until you come for us. Please help us be a blessing to the rest of the world and bring glory to you. And please help us to remember we have so much to be thankful for, and especially to be thankful during this season of Thanksgiving. You've been so good to us, and you really are our hope, and you are the hope of glory in us. And I just want to praise you, Lord Jesus, and pray for the church, that you would bless each body and every person in this congregation and help us to be ready and prepared to do your will. And we pray in Jesus' name. And thank you, everybody who attended tonight.